Welcome to the content-based presentation for Unit 3 of Music, Dance and Drama. The subject code for this subject is MDD12, MD12 and SSMD12. My name is Dr. Marie van Skalkwyk and my mobile number and email address is available on the presentation. You are welcome to contact me via WhatsApp, SMS, phone or email. However, if you want to be sure that you get my attention, make sure that you contact me during office hours. These are between 6 and 8 p.m. on weekdays. You're welcome to contact me outside of these hours as well, but I won't necessarily be able to answer my phone or to help you at that stage. Okay, now let's start. This is a content-based presentation for Unit 3. Unit 3 is entitled How to Involve Learners in Dancing Activities, Including Traditional Dances. Okay. The aim of this presentation is to clarify the study material as set out in your study guide. This means the aim of this presentation is to give you a clearer understanding of the information that is in this unit in your study guide. Any questions or uncertainties that you still have after this presentation can be clarified in your study group, or of course you can contact your tutor. Now, how to use this presentation? This presentation serves as a very basic tool to help clarify each section in Unit 3. Difficult theories or models or sections or things that I know that students have difficulty with, I will explain in a bit more detail. Now you need to refer to your study guide throughout the presentation, as often I only give a broad explanation of the section. This means that you have to have your hard copy of your study guide available in front of you while you are watching this, or of course if you have a soft copy on your Kindle, you have that as well. Now why are we doing it in this way? If you went to a university where you would have had daily classes, this subject would have been a 6-month course and you would probably have had 3 classes a week. In these classes, everything would have been explained, explored, investigated, and you would have given the opportunity to engage in all of the activities practically. However, as this is distance learning, all the onus, unfortunately, is on the student to investigate, to practically do, and to understand, okay? And there's just not enough time on this presentation to present it to you the way that it would have been if you went to daily classes. So for all of those sections in the unit, which are rather straightforward, I just give you a broad generalization of what is happening in that unit. Now, I want you to think of your study guide as a storybook with a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you only start reading at the end, you're not going to understand the entire story. If you only read sections in the middle, you're not going to understand the entire story. So you need to read your entire study guide from the beginning to the end in order to understand the whole story of what the subject is about. Now, each unit also works in the same way. The unit has a beginning, a middle, and the end. And once again, you need to read the entire unit in order to understand the broader picture or the bigger picture of what the unit is about. If you just elect to study or to read some sections, you're not going to understand the work because you won't be able to understand the story. Each section also has a beginning and a middle and an end, and that also gives you the broader picture of what, and so what I thus aim to do is for each section either explain something to you if it's difficult, or just give you a big idea of what that section is about so that you can fill in the finer details of the story yourself. Okay, let's start. What Unit 3 is about. Unit 3 looks at the different techniques to involve learners in dancing activities. In other words, how to interest them, how to get them to participate in dancing activities. It investigates modern dance and traditional dance, as well as how to identify suitable music for these dances. The unit explains the need for warm-up exercises and also tell you not only why you should warm up, but what you should warm up. And then it identifies some famous historical ballet dances. Now, there are 15 learning outcomes that are identified in this unit. This means that once you have carefully read through and engaged and looked at watched this presentation, you should be able to do the following 15 things at the end of the unit. You should be able to describe the importance and the type of warm-up exercises before dancing. You should be able to describe and demonstrate different type of joints that must be exercised. You should be able to describe and demonstrate some muscle movements. You should be able to define some anatomy terms related to dance. You should be able to identify some dance choreographers' websites. You should be able to mention famous historical ballet dancers in the world and know why they are famous. You need to be able to explain the principles of body conditioning. You need to be able to explain how to select music for a dance scenario. You need to be able to explain and demonstrate how to involve learners in participating in dancing activity using different techniques, including free and choreographed movements, large and small muscle movements, position and space and directionality, perceptual motor movements, and muscle coordination, balance, and rhythm. You should be able to describe and perform traditional dances. You should be able to identify and gather suitable music and DVDs of modern and traditional dances. You should be able to explain how to teach choreographed dances to young children. You should be able to explain how to select appropriate dances for specific age groups. You should be able to discuss the health benefits of regular dancing practice. And finally, you should be able to compile a dance production plan which includes a rehearsal schedule, dances, a number of learners in each dance, costumes, lighting, music, equipment, helpers, props, loudspeaker system, a master of ceremony, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's start. The first section in Unit 3 is section 3.1, the importance and type of warm-up exercises before dancing. Now, warm-ups is an unbelievably important part of dance. Not only if you warm up, you prevent injury, but you also allow yourself to have a more enjoyable class. For example, warm-up quite often stretches part of the body. So if during the dance class you have warmed up and those parts of your body are nice and warm and stretched, you will be able to do the movement required by the dance teacher. If you've not warmed up, you might be a little bit too stiff to do it and you won't enjoy it as much. Okay, that's just a simple explanation. Now there are 5 types of warm-ups. Your study guides describe to perform each warm-up, and I urge you to please read what the warm-up is, do it, and then see if what you've done and what is described is the same thing. If it's not the same thing, it means that you misunderstood something. Then you need to read again and try it out again until there's a correlation. If you still don't understand, then you contact your tutor or your study group in order for you to understand what you are not understanding or what you are missing. And this is how learning takes place, by reading and doing and seeing if the reading and the doing has the same understanding. Okay, now the 5 types of warm-ups are neck isolations, hip swings, heel raises, leg swings, and lunge stretches. And please note that lunge has got an E, L-U-N-G-E. It's not a lung stretch, as students often write. Your lungs are the things that you breathe with. Lunge is the stretcher that you have to do for this. Okay. Dance is a performing art, as we know, but it's also a physical exercise. So that is actually why participating in a dance class can help you increase your fitness level. Now, fitness is the ability to do physical activities or to do physical work. And fitness consists out of strength, flexibility, and endurance. Strength is the ability of a group of muscles to exert force against resistance. Flexibility is the range of motion of a certain joint and its corresponding muscle groups. Endurance is the ability of muscles or a group of muscles to perform work for a long time. So these strength, flexibility, endurance, this is what fitness consists of, and fitness is what you are required to have if you are a dancer, because you are going to exert a lot of physical exercise. Okay, we're moving on to 3.2, the different types of joints that must be exercised. Okay, now a joint is something that connects 2 or more bones. So in other words, between every loose bone in your body, I almost want to say, you have a joint. A ligament is a thing that connects the bones inside and your muscles. Okay, this is what attaches the muscles to the bone. The joint is something that attaches the bone to another bone. Now there are 4 main types of joints and each have a different range of motion. Range of motion means the amount of movement that each joint has. Now you have something called the ball and socket joint. Okay, and an example thereof is your shoulder joint. Now this is the joint with the widest range of motion. So if you do this with your shoulder, then you can see you can move your shoulder up and down, forward and backward and all around. Okay, so it looks like this. And this is the movement that's happening when you are moving your shoulder. So the one bone looks like this, the head, and the other one like this. Okay? Then you have a hinge joint. Okay? That's for example, a hinge joint are your elbow joint and your knee joint. Now they look more like this. They work more like this. So they open and close. Okay? So if you think of your elbow can open and close, but it can't do this. This is my shoulder joint that's making that movement. So it only allows for this range of movement, opening and closing. Okay? Then you get pivot joints. Now an example of your pivot joint is between the base of your skull and your neck. And it is a very little range, small range of motion. But what it allows you to do is it allows you to nod your head and also to say no. Okay. Then the last one is an ellipsoidal joint, and this is your wrist joint. It also has a wide range of motion because it can turn around and go up and down and back and forth. But that range of motion is not as big as your shoulder joint or as a ball and soccer joint. Okay, now the rest of this section gives you information on how to protect your joints in 9 steps. You can go fill in the details. Then we move on to section 3.3, some muscle movements. Okay, now this section, the whole general aim of this section is to list, define, and explain the different muscles and the muscle movements that are related to dance. For example, the diaphragm. Now, a very quick method of actually getting or identifying or knowing where, locating, there's the word that I'm looking for, locating your diaphragm is if you put your hands underneath your rib cage and you breathe like a dog. That muscle that moves in and out like this, that is your diaphragm. Okay, now this is your study tip. Make sure that you know how the muscles and the joints work together to create movement. Example, the shoulder joint that we've worked just now and the rotator cuff. Now the rotator cuff, if I can just expand on this example, the rotator cuff is a group of muscles that make sure that that your shoulder is stable, and they also control the range of motion for your shoulder. If they weren't there, your shoulder will be able to dislocate very easily. Now, to show you how this works together, I've injured my rotator cuff quite badly on my left side. So while my range of motion on the right side, allowing for my shoulder joint and the rotator cuff, I've got a wide range of motion. On the left side, however, I can't actually, my range of motion is very limited because I've damaged my rotator cuff and it can't stabilize my shoulder to move all around. I hope that clarifies it to you. Okay, now we're moving on to section 3.4, some anatomy terms related to dance. Now, anatomy, big word, it only refers to the structure and the function of a body. Now, if you are a dancer, of course, you use your body as your instrument. And if you understand how your body works, then you can improve your body skills and you can push your body to limits, to new limits and to new heights. Okay, so that's why it's important for dancers to know anatomical terms. This entire section describes and defines some anatomical terms related to dance. For example, anatomical positions such as superior or inferior or anterior or posterior. Okay, make sure that you know what all these terms are. It's a rather straightforward section. Now, we'll go to section 3.5, some dance choreographers' websites. Now, this section lists a lot of websites of dance choreographers. You are required to look this up to familiarize yourself with the work of choreographers and see what it is. I am, however, going to give you a short definition quickly of choreography and a choreographer that is found on the Encyclopedia Britannica. Choreography is the art of creating and arranging dances. So the choreography of a performance is, in other words, the creation and the arrangement of the dance and dance moves. The choreographer is the person who creates and then also teaches these dances to the performance that are going to be performed at stage as part of a performance. Okay, so that's the difference between choreography and a choreographer. Please make sure that you know what choreography is and that you know what a choreographer is, because students, I've often realized they become quite confused and they try to answer questions without actually knowing what they're answering the questions about. Now we're moving on to section 3.6, famous historical ballet dancers in the world. Now this section just looks at 5 famous historical ballet dancers and why they are well known and famous. If I can give you a tip, look if you don't know, if you've never seen a ballet, okay, look it up on the internet. Type in ballet on your search engine so that you can see what this dance form looks like. And then you will better be able to understand why these historical dances are famous, because you know what they contributed to the dance form and you know what the dance form looks like today. I can't urge you enough to do this. We're moving on to section 3.7, the principles of body conditioning. Now, in order to get the most out of any fitness program or then subsequently dance training, there are 6 universally acknowledged principles or rules for increasing your strength, your stamina, and your flexibility. Now, these are of course used in dance in order to enable a dancer to be at their best. Now, these principles are all described in a lot of detail and illustrated as well in your study guide. I'm just going to quickly run through them and then just give you a basic explanation of what they are. Now, the first principle is the principle of individual differences. This means that all of us are unique individuals. So if we all do the same exercise program, I'm going to respond differently than you are going to respond differently to the next. So this is basically what this means. All of us respond differently to exercise programs. Okay. Number 2 is the principle of overload. Now, this principle states that in order for you to become fitter or stronger or faster, you need to work harder than normal. In other words, if you want to be able to lift weights, okay, and every day you just lift 5 kilograms, you're never going to get stronger. You have to work harder than normal in order to become stronger than normal. So you have to push 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever. This is the principle of overload. The principle of progression, okay, says that there is an ideal level of overload and that this ideal level of overload should be achieved within the ideal time frame. What this basically means is you start slow and you increase either your pace or your overload or your weight or whatever you do. This is the principle of progression. The 4th principle is the principle of adaptation. This means that your body can adjust to increased or decreased physical demands. What this basically means, if you want to play cricket and you are going to practice to hit the ball every day, your body is adjusting to the increased practice of hitting the bat, which means you are going to be more accurate and you're going to hit the ball harder and more often and all of those things. The principle of adaptation. Number 5 is the principle of use or disuse. This principle is described in your book as use it or lose it. In other words, it means that if you don't keep on exercising or you don't keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to lose your fitness. Even the fittest marathon runner in the entire world will lose their fitness if they do nothing for 2 weeks. Okay, this is the principle of use, disuse. Then the last principle is the principle of specificity. Specificity. Okay, and this means that when you exercise a specific part of your body, that part of your body is going to be the part of your body that primarily develops. In other words, if you are lifting weights, okay, you are using your arm. So you can't expect that you are going to get skinnier or that your leg is going to get bigger or that your finger is going to get stronger necessarily. No. What this means is that you are developing your arm that is picking up the weight. Okay? So that's a principle of specificity. I can't pronounce the words. Okay, you can refer to your study guide for more information and more illustrations. Okay, then we're going to Unit 3.9. Section 3.9, how to involve learners in dancing activities, including traditional dances. And I've just left something out. I'm just going to go to section 3.8, how to select music for a dance scenario. Now, something that is very, very important that I want you to remember is that a dance scenario does not mean a music video on YouTube with a dance choreographed to it. That's also a choreographed dance, but that's something totally different. A dance scenario means that you're working out a dance or specific dances, okay, that tells a story. It's a performance entirely of its own, okay? And within this dance scenario, okay, or within the Okay, let me try that again. Now, how you select the music for this dance scenario is quite different from when you want to perform a dance on the most popular song that's playing on the radio. Okay, it's a whole different thing. Now, quite a lot of students get that confused when they answer the question on how to select music for a dance scenario. So make sure that you know that it does not refer to dancing on a music video. Okay, this is a specific thing. A dance scenario is an entire dance show that tells a story. Okay, now the song is the story that the dance are telling you, and therefore it is vital that the feeling or the emotions that the dance is conveying or that the dance is telling is also the feeling and emotions that the song are telling. Okay, otherwise it's just going to be a mix-up. Now, there are 3 steps that you do. First, you have to identify your audience and the purpose of your choreography. Number 2, you have to start exploring songs and connect them to your choreography. And number 3, you have to consider the emotion and feeling that you want to communicate. Now, in your study guide, all these 3 steps are illustrated and discussed and expanded upon in more detail. Make sure that you can fill in all the details under these 3 steps. And then we are going to Unit 3.9, how to involve learners in dancing activities, including traditional dances. Now, the first section there is on free and choreographed movement to music. Okay, free movement is when you allow learners to move to the music any way that you want to. Choreographed movement is when you teach them the moves and they have to perform those moves. Now, when you teach choreographed movement, make sure that you demonstrate each dance move slowly so that the students can copy you. Okay, that you rehearse the dance first without music, and then that you practice the dance with music. Okay, these are the basics. You can fill in all the rest of the details. Information is provided in your study guide. There's also some dancing games that they give you how that you can play with regards to this. We're then moving on to large and small muscle skills. Now, large and small muscle skills, of course, you're using all your muscles when you dance. Okay, it's a rather straightforward section. I want to stand still, however, at fine motor skills and gross motor skills. Now, fine motor skills are when you use the small muscles of your body. Example, when you are writing, coordinating hand-eye movements, or picking up a tiny leaf between your fingers. Now, visual motor skills is when you use construction toys or build a puzzle, and hand-eye coordination is when you use a pencil or when you are drawing. These are examples of fine motor skills. In other words, fine motor skills, small muscles. Gross motor skills is the opposite. So gross motor skills use the large muscles of your body, and this is also the first set of skills that a child masters. For example, sitting, using your arms, legs or feet, running, walking, rolling down a hill, pushing a wagon. All of these are examples of gross motor skills. Now, if you are doing or performing a skill that uses the entire body of many parts of your body at once, you are performing a gross motor skill. Now, muscle tone is a very important part of gross motor skills. If your body reacts too tightly, you will experience jerky or disconnected movement. But if your body reacts too loosely, then you will need a lot more strength to perform a movement, and your movements will appear slow because you are using so much strength. Okay, the next section within this is how to teach position and space. How to teach position in space and directionality. Now, this section actually explains this to you very clearly. It's a very straightforward section, but the added bonus of this section is that it illustrates you how to teach a class on position in space and directionality. Okay, now this lesson activity, do it. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's very straightforward. It's very easy to understand. But the other benefit of it is this lesson activity can also be used as a blueprint to teach other dance techniques or other dance movements or other dance activities. So look through that very carefully. For example, it's got an introduction, it's got a warm-up, it's got jumping jacks, it's got exploration, and it's got creation and cool down. And like I said, those 5 things can be used as a blueprint to teach dance classes. I'm moving on to Perceptual motor skills. Perceptual motor skills are something that students quite often also have problems with, because they don't understand what a perceptual motor skills is. Now, it's a very difficult thing to understand. Students very often are able to tell me that the examples of perceptual motor skills are hand-eye coordination, body-eye coordination, auditory language skills, postural adjustment, and visual auditory skills, without knowing what any of that means or why that is a perceptual motor skill. Now, a perceptual motor skill is a skill that allows us to engage in athletic activity, for example, jumping hurdles, and interact with our environment. Now, a perceptual motor skills requires the use of the brain and the body to work together in order to do something. Now, the easiest example of a perceptual motor skill in the real world is riding a bike. If you think about it, you have to use all of your senses when you ride a bike. You have to listen for cars. You have to look at the road. You have to balance. You have to use your body to balance. You have to use your arms to steer. You have to use your feet to pedal. You have to use your head in order to see where you're going. You need direction. So your entire body, all your senses and your brain needs to work together to keep you upright on a bike. And that's also, if you think about it, why it's such a difficult skill for a child to master, if you think of all these things that has to be in place in order for someone to ride a bike. Now, perceptual motor skills can be required in 3 phases. Number 1 is the cognitive stage. This is understanding what to do. Number 2, the associative stage. This is practicing what to do. And number 3 is the autonomous stage. This is improving speed and accuracy. Now, if I can explain this with regards to the bike example again. Now, during the cognitive stage, a child will understand what to do. They know they have to get on the bike, and they have to pedal, and they have to steer, and they have to get their balance. Okay? The associative stage, now they are practicing to pedal, they are practicing to steer, they're practicing to keep their balance on the bike. Once they've mastered this, okay, they go to the autonomous stage, and otherwise they can do it now, and now they are practicing to do it with more accuracy and with more speed, so they are practicing to ride the bike better. Okay, I'm moving on to section 3.10. which is traditional and modern dances. Okay, traditional dances. Traditional dances is a form of dance developed by a group of people that reflects the traditional life of the people of a certain country or region. Okay, this means that each traditional dance is unique to the people that created it. And it tells you something about their lives, it tells you something about their countries, about their region, about their religion. Okay? Traditional dance consists out of tribal dances and folk dances. Make sure that you know that distinction. Folk dances, that's the one where people are happy and follow instructions from an experienced caller and has simple movements and just do it for joy. And tribal dances are where they are simple dances that are performed to express joy. They've got costumes, all of these things. So make sure that you can differentiate between tribal dances and folk dances. And now a very, very important part. African dance is merely a genre or a type of tribal dance. If you answer a question on traditional dance and you only write about African dancing, you are only writing about one part of traditional dancing, and that is tribal dances. Then you're leaving out folk dances. So make sure that you can differentiate between tribal dances and folk dances. All of that is very clearly stipulated in your study guide. Just make sure that you remember that and that you understand that. Now, modern dancing. We're moving on to that. Modern dancing is a style of dance that encourages individual creativity and freedom of expression. So you can almost do what you want. Now, some people also refer to contemporary dance. Now, your study guide provides you 4 detailed steps if you want to teach modern dance to your young students. You don't necessarily need dance training to do this. If you read through the steps, then it's very easy to do. Okay, and your students, your young learners will actually enjoy it a lot. The first step that you do is you start the class with a warm-up. Once again, your study guide expands and illustrates much more on these steps. Number 2 is you give combinations across the floor. Now, this might be your study guide actually gives you a bit of information about this, but this literally means that you put your students in a corner and they explore walking and running and jumping from one corner of the room to the other. You can have walks like up, up, down, or any of these things, just to help them to explore their own bodies, their own movements within the space. Number 3, you move to the center of the floor in step 3. And this is where improvisation takes place. Now you can improvise with stuff that is available to you in the space that you are doing your dance. You can bring stuff in, you can use mental images, and this allows people to see what their bodies can do in relation to this stimuli that they've gotten. The fourth one is that the fourth step is that you end the class with a cool down. Okay, so once again, those are the 4 steps to teach modern dance. Your study guide provides all the detail. Make sure that you know them. Section 3.11 is about suitable music for modern and traditional dances. It's a very straightforward section, and it just explains to you how you would go about selecting music for modern dance and traditional dances and the different instruments that you use within that. You can fill in the details for that. Section 3.12 is choreographed dances. Once again, a very straightforward section, and it explains to you what you should keep in mind when teaching choreographed dances to young learners. You can fill in the detail. Section 3.13 is appropriate dances for a specific age group. Now this section is once again very straightforward. It lists and defines different dances. Okay. Now these dances that are listed and defined includes ballet, jazz, tap, hip hop, ballroom, Irish, and modern. Okay. If you don't know what a dance form looks like, just reading the description is not necessarily going to help you understand or visualize what it looks like. Okay. Search for the dance form on the internet and see what they look like, and that way then you'll be able to differentiate between them. You will see what this means, that you will see what the differences are, and you will remember this easier. Okay. Section 3.14 is the physical health benefits of regular dancing. Now the 4 main benefits of regular dancing are flexibility, strength, endurance, and a sense of well-being. Now the first 3, of course, we have spoken about earlier in this presentation. The sense of well-being is fully described within your study guide. This is the main benefits that this section deals with, and you can fill in the details. Everything is illustrated and expanded and explained in your study guide. Okay. Now this section then continues to explain the health benefits to young children. The health benefits of regular dancing to young children. Now they correlate to, of course, to the health benefits of grown-ups, and they include coordination, flexibility, balance, agility, strength, and stamina, all the things that students need to be healthy. Okay. Then it also identifies some dance games that young learners will enjoy, and it explains them in detail. And you can use these dance games quite often, and then the students will reap all these benefits that we've just listed. And these games are catching a bubble, the rowboat, the animal parade, and the freeze dance. Once again, all of these dances and are explained and illustrated and expanded upon in your study guide. It's very straightforward. Do them and see if what you've done and what you've read is the same. Otherwise, read again, do again, until you understand what you have to do. Then moving on to section 3.15. This is a dance production plan, including rehearsals, costumes, lighting, and so forth. This entire section is concerned with the planning, the practicing or rehearsing, and the performance of a dance show. Okay? And you can go through this. It's rather straightforward. It gives you tips. It gives you things to consider. It also lists 4 types of technical rehearsals. Okay? Now, a technical rehearsal is all the technical elements. This means lighting and sound and costume and what am I leaving out? Lighting, sound, costume, set, scenery, all the technical things. So in other words, the things that make up a performance, the music that will be played, the lights that will be on the actors, the clothes that they will wear, all of these things that are technical rehearsals. Okay. Now the 4 types of technical rehearsals that you get is a dry technical rehearsal. This means it's a rehearsal without the performance, so there are no actual dancers on stage, but all the technical elements are there. So the music are played, the lighting cues are given, the set is changed. Okay. Then you get a tech rehearsal. Now this is the rehearsal with the performance and all the technical elements. And that tech in all of the rehearsals, of course, stands for technical. Okay, but the term used is tech. So then everything is combined. Then you get a pick-up tech rehearsal. Now this is what we used to refer to as troubleshooting. This means that everything that went wrong or everything that should be improved upon, that is rehearsed. Not the entire technical elements, but just the things that need to be improved on or things that need to be fixed. Then the fourth type of technical rehearsal that you get is a paper tech rehearsal. Now this rehearsal actually happens before the actual rehearsal starts. This is just a meeting between all the designers, the costume designer, the lighting designer, the set designer, the sound designer, in order to plan the technical elements of a show. Okay, and that is it for Unit 3. Now, your study guide, of course, provides you with the learning activities at the start of each unit. After you've watched this presentation, I hope you have a clearer picture or bigger picture of what this entire unit is about. I would like you to go back and then reread and actively engage with this unit from beginning to the end. Then I would like you to go to the learning activities and answer them to the best of your ability. After you've done this, you go to the end of the unit where the feedback on learning activities or the answers are provided. Okay? Check your answer against the feedback provided and see if it's the same. If it's not the same, it meant that you missed something or that you misunderstood something. Go back to that section, reread and see if you can see where you went wrong. If you can't find whatever you missed or whatever you don't understand, you can either take that to your study group or you can contact me in order to help to clarify it. And that's the end. Thank you very much.